You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristodoulou.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristodoulou, and today on this beautiful May 18th, 2022, I am continuing with the Draft Grade series, and we are discussing none other than the New York Jets. We are talking the Jets here, breaking down a massive haul of a class for the franchise, one that could potentially send them in quite the different trajectory that this team has been the last, I guess last year was a start in the right direction. This will really start to rocket them into the right direction if all pans out well with this draft class that they brought in this year. But my Jets fans, I want to know what you guys are thinking about this group of players here. Are you excited about these, those 3 first-round selections they're hauling in? Maybe there's a guy in day 2 or day 3 that you're interested in that you can't wait to see how they kind of pan out. But let me know in the comment section down below. How you guys feeling about this class? Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's talk some New York Jets, shall we? We'll start with day number 3. We'll work our way into day number 2, and then we'll get to the main event, that show-stopping 3 first-round selections they had in day number 1. So starting with the day 3 picks, you guys only had 2 of them. 2 fourth-round selections at pick 6 and 12. We are looking at Max Mitchell, the offensive tackle out of Louisiana, and then we're also looking at Michael Clemens, the defensive end out of Texas A&M. So we'll start with Michael Clemens, the D-end from TAM. This guy, pretty impressive dude, if I would say so myself. I gave the grade a B because for somebody with his potential talent and playmaking ability to be available to you guys in the 4th round when you selected him, this is somewhat of a steal. The injury history is probably the one concern that I have about him. Just this past season alone was his very first full collegiate season without dealing with any sort of injuries and missing time. So that is definitely the biggest red flag above everything else when it comes to him. But I mean, as a player, if you go and check out this dude's game tape, it's ridiculous. I mean, the guy has awesome play strength and a fantastic never say die type of motor. I mean, his bull rush is really nice. He sheds blocks very well at times too. He's a really good tackler. Even in open space, you can see him catch up to guys and bring them down. I mean, this is someone that he brings so much versatility for where he can line up on the defensive front. He can run odd and even sets, whatever you need him to do. This is a guy that I think Robert Saleh would really love to have on his team. And the fact that the Jets got him in the 4th round, again, as long as he stays healthy, this is someone who could potentially produce at a very strong rotational level and potentially even a starting level if he really reaches what his full potential is, because this guy brings a lot of ability and just like raw athleticism. And again, the play strength that he shows, the way he can bull rush offensive linemen, the dude's really impressive. Go check him out if you don't really know much about him. I highly recommend it. His game tape's very easy to find because he is an electric player. Gave him a B. Excellent selection here in the 4th round. And then Max Mitchell, the offensive tackle out of Louisiana. This guy has just fantastic size and length. He's 6'6", 307 pounds. He's got a massive 33.5-inch arm span. Very athletic for an offensive tackle. I saw a lot of people compare him to like his athleticism being more so akin to like a tight end than an offensive tackle, which is really good. And also, if you like using PFF, they graded him as one of the best run blockers in this draft class here. Play strength, though, is where his success will kind of live and die. He only had 21 reps on the bench, and his upper body strength was already a concern prior to that. But then once he only hit the 21 on the bench reps, I think that was something that kind of compounded the concern about his actual play strength here. So while he does bring a ton of athleticism, and again, this is a 4th-round offensive lineman, he doesn't necessarily need to pan out like right away on day 1. This is definitely kind of a work in progress. Can they develop his strength into an NFL caliber type of player to go along with all the athleticism that he brings to the table? Again, I gave it a C+ because there is when you think offensive lineman, at worst, you want someone that's like repping out, 27, 28, 29 of those reps. And while you think, well, what's the difference between 21 and 27, 28 reps? Muscular endurance, strength overall, there's a pretty significant margin there for those of you that are weightlifters and whatnot. I work out myself. There is definitely a margin fairly significant between, 7, 8, and 9 reps of a weight. So with that in mind, again, a really good project for them, but overall, a solid selection in the 4th round. And again, he's considered one of the best run blockers in this class, according to PFF. So we'll have to see how he pans out for the Jets. But I gave him a C+. For day 3, we're looking at a B- for the grade. I think it was a good couple of selections for them. Lack of picks in the later rounds, but I mean, when you're picking 3 first-rounders and then a couple of day 2 guys, and then, you know, your other day 3 selections are in round 4, I mean, you're looking at 7 picks here, and typically teams only have 7 in the draft. Their first 7 were just much earlier than most teams. Going into day number 2 now, we have ourselves running back Baris Hall out of Iowa State, who I'm actually a massive fan of this selection. And then we also have Jeremy Ruckert, the tight end out of Ohio State. So we'll start with Jeremy Ruckert, 3rd round, pick number 37, prototype size that you want at a tight end. He's 6'5", 250 pounds, massive 10 1/8 inch mitts hands, dude. The guy has humongous hands, and that's actually shown up in some of the catches. If you go watch his highlights, there are a couple of one-handed catches that are thrown in there that you just think, if he did not have those massive mitts, he's probably not making that play. He can be tough to bring down, being such a big, solid dude as well. Again, very muscular frame. This guy is built really well. The biggest issues that they really have with him is he's more of just like he's going to make the catch, but he's not really going to like do too much without it type of guy. Like, he's not a big rack guy, I guess you could say. He also, and this was something that I noticed, because typically how I do these is like I watch the film of a player first, and then I go look at what like scouts are actually saying about him to see if like any of the thoughts that come to my mind are things that other people are saying as well. And he drops his head into tackles a lot, and it's kind of scary. I'm not going to lie, because when you see, like, drop the shoulder, but keep the head up, heads up football. I think that's something that's being taught everywhere now in this day and age. And it's fine if you want to drop down to lay into somebody, but he like will lead with his head sometimes too. And you're just like, dude, your neck, be careful. So that is something that is a little bit scary. He has really good speed, but again, he'll just drive right into contact, and great that he wants to try to outmuscle defenders. Don't get me wrong. We just need to see it be done a little bit more safely. Also, and as a pass protector is also something I noted as well. He is not necessarily the best pass blocking tight end you could ask for out there. He is more of a receiving threat type of guy. But I gave the pick a B- because the Jets don't really have like a true tight end to work with anyway. So in the 3rd round, Jeremy Ruckert might be that guy for them. Then looking at round number 2, pick number 4, we have Baris Hall, the running back out of Ohio State that some people would call the full package running back 1, a 3-down back. He's 5'11", 217 pounds, coupled with 4.39 speed. This guy consistently makes those short yardage, tough yardage plays that you need down in and down out in the running game. He is so impressive at what he does, and he's so just like fluid. And I know Jets fans, you might be a little bit scarred from me saying this because the signing didn't end up working out, but I'm going to say it reminds me of the pre-New York Jets days. His patience and the way he identifies running lanes and kind of lets blocks, form out and open up those lanes for him reminds me of the Pittsburgh Steelers before the rap album Le'Veon Bell. I really like the way he's a very patient runner, but then he comes with that athleticism to boot with it. So, he's willing to let things develop in front of him and give him the best case scenario to gain that 2, 3, 4, 5, and sometimes rip a big run. He had, I believe, 5 75-yard runs this past season. That's ridiculous. Excellent player, very patient. He does get a little bit of a knock though for being too patient at times. That again, like I said, I watch players' tapes and then I look at what the scouts have to say about them. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a scout. I just kind of look at them and I'm like, does he pass the eye test? Yes, he does. He does this, and this well. I notice, his jukes are really clean, or, a player's catches are really smooth, things like that. Like that's what I look for, general stuff. And then I look to the scouts for more like nitty gritty type details. But he's apparently a little too patient in some of his runs. And while I'm sitting here looking for highlights and as much game tape as possible, there's obviously things that some of these scouts are seeing that I don't even have access to. So he does get knocked for being a little too patient at times. But he plays quick. I like his game. Again, he's a potential home run hitter for you guys. 5 plays of 75-yard runs. That's ridiculous. He does, though, come into the league with over 800 touches in 3 years in college. So that is something to keep an eye on. He's already had a fairly heavy workload. Iowa State really ran with him and trusted him as RB1. That'll be something that, I guess, does he wear out sooner than some other running backs do coming out of college with already 800 touches on the books? I mean, that's something we won't know for another few years, but just something of note to keep in mind. But I gave the selection an A. Overall, for day 2, you're sitting at a B+. I really like these 2 picks. Again, the tight end one, he's going to be a guy that you can trust throwing the football to. You just don't really expect to get too much out of it beyond that. He's going to make the catch, but how much is he really going to do after it unless he's wide open for something, Whereas Baris Hall, he's a literal 3-down back, a guy who can really make things a lot easier for Zach Wilson in his sophomore season here and going forward beyond. Now, let's talk this day 1 group of guys, because 3 first-round selections and, an impressive group of selections at that. Sauce Gardner with the first pick at number 4, Garrett Wilson with that second pick at 10, and then being able to get up there and draft Jermaine Johnson, the D-end out of Florida State, who seemed to be like the most exciting pick for the Jets draft room of them all. I've got to say, all 3 of these guys are excellent selections, and if they all hit, should really flip the fortunes of this franchise. And I'm going to start with Jermaine Johnson, and I'll tell you this is probably my favorite selection of the 3. Even though Garrett Wilson should be a stud and Sauce Gardner, he displays the cornerback 1 confidence that you want from him. I really like the Jermaine Johnson one because if he plays well, it should make what Sauce Gardner does even easier. When you have an excellent pass rush, your secondary immediately improves because they're typically covering for, 1, 2, 3 seconds less than other secondaries that aren't playing with an excellent pass rush. This guy has a relentless motor, super strong bull rush, nice quick swim move as well. He's a really good tackler, and he's someone that strikes for the ball when he goes to make those sack plays or sack attempts rather. He is just an outstanding, aggressive player, a guy that is going 110% each and every single play, someone that you can count on to be pressuring the quarterback all game long. He does rely a bit too much on his effort and power rather than his skill and techniques. That's not my opinion. That's coming from the scouts themselves. So that is something that'll be obviously looked at, and he'll probably be, he'll be coached up. They'll probably try to beat some of that out of him because at the end of the day, you can be as powerful and filled with as much effort as you want. But when you're in the NFL, it's a pros league. You need to be on top of the techniques. You need to understand what people are doing and really refine your skill set. So it'll be up to the Jets brass here now to take all that power and athleticism that Jermaine Johnson comes in with and refine it, make it clean, make it efficient, teach him how to properly attack certain things and identify what offensive linemen are trying to do to prevent him from getting to the quarterback. This is an awesome selection. Best grade of the entire draft class for me. I gave this one an A+. I really, really like the Jermaine Johnson selection. This should be an excellent addition to the team. Then looking at Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State, what is there to really say about the guy that hasn't already been said? Big game wide receiver. He has great game speed. He's a great ability to get himself open. He has good play strength as well. He fights through the route pressure that people try to put onto him, so he has solid play strength as well. The only real criticism that I found from him when I was going through scouting notes was that, his route running game needs to just be, cleaned up and sharpened up a bit, and that's the only real thing that he needs to do. So, if he brings everything else to the table and you just need to sharpen up your route running, add some moves there to fake defenders out, because again, the NFL, you got to be smart. You have to be smarter and you got to be tricky, because a lot of the corners that you're going up against now in the NFL, they were all the best player on their team at one point back in college. These are legit dudes. So just as the cleaner you can make your route running, the better. But Garrett Wilson, awesome selection. I gave this one an A- as well. And then for Sauce Gardner, like I mentioned when I was talking Jermaine Johnson, the dude just brings that cornerback 1 type of confidence that you need to be a special type of person to want to be a corner, because corners lose a lot more than they win, but the best can keep it at about 50-50 or even 60-40 their direction if they're playing really, really well. And you need to have like an undeniable confidence about yourself to be able to, let a big play happen and then, say it's for a touchdown and then come back that next drive, wipe it from your memory and get right back to being the sticky cover guy you are. And that's what Sauce Gardner brings to the table, and I love it. Some people might label it as cocky. I look at it as cornerback 1 confidence, and that's how you need to play the game. When you think like Deion Sanders, that's how you want to play. That's exactly how you want someone to play. You want them to be able to walk up to wide receiver 1 every single week and be like, good luck, because you ain't catching nothing today. I love it. He's 6'3", 190 pounds, stays on his man through traffic. That was the one thing that I really noticed when I was watching a lot of his game tape, is especially on like slants and in routes and things like that. when they're racing across the field, even though he's like trying to avoid oncoming wide receivers and defenders coming from the opposite direction, he stays on his man no matter what. That is one thing that, you know, a lot of corners tend to struggle with, is when you're going through traffic, you lose your man. Gardner is not one of those guys. He does an excellent job staying on his man. He makes the pick play, and he's an excellent returner at that. He is someone who, if he gets the hands on his ball, he had 2 pick sixes during his career. I mean, you got to be careful with him, because if he gets that ball in his hands, you better make sure that he's not sprinting the other way 65 yards for a touchdown. That's for sure. Discipline and technique are probably his biggest areas of need in terms of improvement. One thing I will say that I noticed while watching even his like highlights, just his highlights alone, you can see him grabbing a lot. And in the NFL, it's you know, especially holding it, not so much, but when it comes to PI, you don't get caught 35 yards down the field, because that's a 35-yard gain right there for the offense. He is a bit grabby. That is definitely something that's going to need to be coached out of him. But I don't foresee it being too much of a problem, but it is something that I'm slightly concerned about. You know, it's just something that I feel like it might even be something maybe he struggles with his rookie year while he adapts, and then coming back into like his second and third year as he really kind of starts to understand the pros and how, you know, officials officiate those games. Then, you know, he'll start to clean it up and get better at it. But I could foresee it being maybe a slight issue his rookie year, and something that might even be like, oh, he can't cover, he's holding every single play. It might be like one of those things where everyone gets all like upset about it and whatnot, and it starts, you know, ragging on him for it. And then he comes back the next year and it's a thing of the past. But overall, I love his game. I love the way he plays. He brings cornerback 1 confidence. I gave the pick an A. Awesome selection for the Jets here. As for my day 1 grade, I gave them an A as well. I mean, you can't really go wrong with the selections that they had in this group here. I mean, you got a cornerback 1, you got a number 1 wide receiver, and Jermaine Johnson, who could literally be your premier edge rusher as well with just what he brings to the table, and he was my favorite selection of the 3. Jets, you guys hit on this draft class. Excellent overall. I gave it an A- for the grade. I mean, you're just scrolling through this list of players here. So much potential and so much ability. And on top of that, like potential, ability, and also proven potential and ability at that. There's just a lot to like about this draft class. And having grown up during a time where the Jets have never really been successful other than during the Mark Sanchez era for those few years, I'm excited to see what happens with Robert Saleh this second year and that entire group of players he has. I really like him as a head coach. I'm excited to see how Zach Wilson does going into the second year of his career. He definitely picked things up at the back half of his rookie season and started to look better and better as things rolled on. Looking forward to seeing how it shapes out. You guys let me know what you're looking forward to as well, but I appreciate you all for watching. I will catch you guys in the next draft grade video. Have a good one.